25 years earlier, Kazunori Yamauchi wanted to create a driving simulator to make racing accessible to the whole world. It would become known as Gran Turismo. In Cardiff, Wales, Jan Martinborough is a big fan of the Gran Turismo video games and has saved enough to buy himself a simulator. He lives with his parents, Steve and Leslie, plus brother Kobe, and works at a clothing store. Steve, a former footballer, does not support Jan's endeavors to become a professional racer, seeing it as unrealistic and dangerous. In Tokyo, Danny Moore, a marketing executive for Nissan, arrives at a conference where he pitches to potential investors a contest for Gran Turismo players to have a chance to be real racers for Nissan, which would also possibly help boost car sales. After the contest is signed off on, Danny seeks out professionals to teach the racers and is turned down by everyone until he reaches his last choice, former racer Jack Salter. Danny finds Jack working as a mechanic and pitches his idea to him, but Jack refuses, saying that putting gamers in real race cars could have potentially fatal consequences. Later, Jack is in a meeting with racer Nikki Kapai, an arrogant hot-head up-and-comer. When Jack tries to give him a suggestion on keeping his emotions in check, Nikki calls him a has-been, so Jack calls Danny and decides to go ahead with the instructor position. Jan later receives a message inviting him to compete in a simulated race after he played Gran Turismo at a gamer cafe, and his score was logged in as being exceptional. A video from Danny states that the top racers will be invited to join the newly established GD Academy for a chance to race for Real. Kobe later tells Jan that he is going to an outdoor gathering with friends. Jan initially declines until Kobe says that his crush Audrey will be there. Jan goes and chats with Audrey, who wants to travel the world. The party is broken up by cops, forcing the teens to go home. While driving Steve's car back, one of Jan and Kobe's friends gets a nearby car to pass them beer, only for the two cars to bump into each other, gaining the attention of police. After the other car gets pulled over, Jan hits the gas and drives away, leading to the police to pursue. After a brief chase, Jan is able to get the police off his tail, but he and Kobe are dismayed to find Steve waiting for them at home, and Jan takes the blame for the damaged mirror. Jan is brought to work with Steve at a rail yard, mere moments before the simulated race is about to begin. Jan leaves and rides his bike to the cafe where he manages to make it on time to sign in. He begins to outrun the other players after utilizing the skills he has gained from playing at home, and he finishes in first place, qualifying him for the academy. Jan gets ready to leave, but is told by Steve once again that it is dangerous, but Jan reminds him that it was he who instilled a love of driving in him at a young age, and he is determined to prove everyone wrong. Jan arrives at the GD Academy along with 9 other potential racers, including the cocky Matty Davis. They are given a not-so-motivational speech by Jack, who still thinks this is a bad idea. The racers then begin to go through extensive driving exercises and physical training. 4 of them get disqualified, and Jan is in danger of being next. During a driving round with Jack, he accidentally crashes, despite insisting he hit the brakes. Jack later learns that the brakes were indeed faulty, so he tells Jan that another racer has been eliminated so that he may enter the final race. Jan yells in excitement. The racers get ready for the qualifying race. Jan places a sticker of his father's football team on his helmet as a tribute to him. He begins the race in last place, but quickly begins to make his way up to the front. As he gets closer to Matty, who is leading, Jan uses his tactics from playing the video game to ride alongside him, and it's a close call to the finish line. Danny thinks Matty won, but Jack has them play the footage back to confirm that Jan won by a hair. Jan is moving on to bigger races, and his fellow racers, including Matty, congratulate him. Jan travels with Jack and Danny to Austria to compete in races to qualify for an FIA license. He goes up against Nikki and other racers, starting off in dead last place. As Jan continues the races, he starts to move up, except for one where his car is knocked off course by Nikki, so he doesn't even finish. He has one more race in Dubai where Jack tells him he needs to finish in at least 4th place to get his license. During the race, Jan manages to surpass Nikki, prompting the jerk driver to pick up too much speed and collide with another car. A Tyco from Nikki's car flies toward Jan's windshield but doesn't damage it enough to prevent him from seeing, so he is able to finish 4th and gain his license. Jan contacts Audrey and invites her to Tokyo to watch him officially get signed by Nissan. They spend the day together and end up at a dance club where they share their first kiss. Jan then heads to the Nürburgring track in Germany for another race, which Steve and Leslie are watching at home. On the 6th lap, Jan manages to make it to 2nd place just before he drives too fast going up a hill, causing his car to flip over and go through a nasty crash. His parents become fearful after seeing it on TV, and Jan is taken to the hospital with Jack by his side. After Jan wakes up, Danny and Jack inform him of what happened. A spectator was tragically killed in the crash, but they assure Jan that it wasn't his fault. He begins to break down and says he wants to be left alone. He cannot even bring himself to speak to his parents, blaming himself for what happened. Once Jan has fully recovered, Jack takes him for a drive to the spot where he crashed, and he tells Jan what ended his racing career. He was driving at the Le Mans track and ended up in a wreck where another driver was killed. Jack quit racing after that and regretted it for not seeing how good he could have become, and he doesn't want Jan to let the same thing happen to him. He lets Jan take the wheel so he can finish his lap. Jan and Jack meet with Danny, who says that the other racing teams are trying to push for the end of having sim racers compete and are trying to build cases against them. They still plan to continue their competition at the 24-hour race in Le Mans with their own Nismo team, accompanied by Maddie and fellow GD Academy driver Antonio Cruz. At Le Mans, Jan has his family, plus Audrey and other GD Academy drivers to come support him. Steve visits Jan as he is getting ready, and he apologizes for not showing him the support he needed earlier. The race commences with Jan, Maddie, and Antonio alternating driving hours. One rival driver ends up in a fiery crash, but he gets out of his car alive. When Jan goes up to drive, he starts to lose his focus after thinking about the crash. Jack helps by playing Kenny G and NU to help Jan get his head back in the game. On the final hour and lap of the race, Jan starts making his way to the front, having to outrace Nicky. He remembers driving the Le Mans track from the video games and how he used his own method to surpass the other drivers. Using this same tactic, he is able to catch up to Nicky where they are neck and neck racing toward the finish line until they make it there and Jan wins. The whole team and his family head to the podium to celebrate while Nicky and his team accept their defeat. The ending text states that Jan Mardenborough and Team Nissan's victory at Le Mans changed motorsports forever. Jan has competed in over 200 races to date, and he even played his own stunt double in this film. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching.